Hi, I'm Venessa Giunta. I am an author and an editor and an all-around like to talk about things person and a little awkward sometimes. One of my favorite things to do is talk to authors, right? I love talking to authors about their process, their writing, their careers, their marketing, all those things. And I really love just sitting down and just talking about stuff. I mean, communication is my love language. So that's really what I had in mind. I really wanted a situation where I could just have a conversation with somebody. So, and a conversation and a cocktail is really all about us hanging out and drinking together and talking about the stuff. Woo! Hey, everybody. Welcome. Good evening. I'm Venessa Giunta, and I have my wonderful guest, my friend Nicole Givens Kurtz. Yay!
Yay! Hi, everybody!
Yay. Awesome. Anita's already out there. Hi, Anita.
Hey, Anita.
Hey, welcome you. All right, Nicole. So thank you so much for being a guest on my second episode of the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, all right, why don't you really quickly before we get into like super conversationally stuff, why don't you tell folks about what you write and what you do and that kind of thing?
So I run a small press called Mocha Memoirs Press, and we publish science fiction, fantasy, and horror from marginalized voices. So that's what we work hard to do, to amplify those types of stories. I write science fiction, fantasy. Well, let me back up. I write science fiction mysteries, fantasy mysteries, weird westerns, and horror. And so it's big umbrella. But yeah, my favorite thing is to include suspense and mystery in pretty much all my stories. That's the uniting thread.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm a huge, I'm such a nerd when it comes to stuff like that. Cause like I spent my teens and my 20s reading horror, like just inhaling horror. And then I spent like my 30s reading murder mysteries and thrillers and things like that. So like that is all right up my alley. All right up my alley. I love it.
Nice.
I love it. So, so tell us a little bit about how you started writing. Now, I read something that said that you started writing at a very, very young age.
Yeah.
You want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So one of the things I have always had an issue with is insomnia. And so I was an only child for the first 7 years of my life. And so my parents were teenagers. And so they were a junior and senior in high school when they became my parents. And so they would do things and be like, Nikki, go to your room. And so I spent a lot of time in my room with my Barbies alone. And so sometimes when I would finish watching a TV show and it was time for bed, I would go upstairs to my room, but I couldn't sleep because, again, I had really horrible insomnia from the time I was like 6 up.
Wow.
And so I would just continue the story in my brain. And so, or I would sneak in the floor and get my Barbies and we would continue the story, right?
Yes, that was the best thing about Barbie.
Yes.
It wasn't oh, Ken. No, it was, and you fall off of the 44th floor.
Because you've been watching Bugs Bunny and Wile E. Coyote, right? So when I became, and my mom was an avid writer, and she still is.
Wow.
She writes, well, when I was younger, she would just keep a journal and she would always write. And I would go in her room, we'd get on the bed and she'd write in her journal and she'd read her true romance magazines. And I would just pretend to write I'll be writing with my mom, right? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And so writing and reading have been part of my life forever. I grew up in a housing project, which wasn't the best. My home life was fine in terms of like, we had food and water and all that kind of stuff, shelter, but the life outside those doors was very different. And so I spent a lot of my time at the public library. And so books were my escape. They were my getaway. And again, I would continue the story after, and because you guys are this generation, all they know are series and sequels. But that wasn't always the case. And so when a book ended, you had to wait.
And you had to wait a long time. Like years.
If you got one at all.
Yeah. So, Anita shipwrecked her Barbies.
Shipwrecked her Barbies. I love it. So yeah. But I realized that I could make a career of it, or I could at least get paid for it in high school. I wrote an essay and won the school district essay contest. I got my picture in the paper and I got like $100, and I won a poetry contest and was invited to like this old women's luncheon. And it was really neat. And I was like, wait, you guys will pay me to make up stuff? Okay.
Sign me up. Sign me up.
All right.
Were your parents supportive of you wanting to be a writer?
My mom was, of course, because she writes.
Yeah.
She still does.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's a big deal for her.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was like, you should get a real job.
Yeah.
Go be a lawyer or a doctor, you know.
Yeah.
It's the 80s, so they were really, and my mom was just like, you can always teach or write, or my mom was always supportive of whatever I wanted to do.
That is awesome. Yeah, my mom told me when I told her when I was like 13 or 14, I was in 8th grade, I think. And I said, I guess that would have made me like 12 or 13. And I said, I want to be a writer. And she said to me, that's a really competitive field, which is true.
It is.
Right. But my little, preteen brain tacked on the end of that. So of course you possibly couldn't do that.
Right.
So it wasn't that she wasn't supportive. It was that she just didn't know how to say the right thing, I think. So that was a problem. So you wrote from that time and you just continued to keep writing always.
So I try to, in high school, I graduated high school in 3 years. So when I came out of high school, I had only been 17 for like 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And I went straight to college. But I try to get a real job, right? Because the conversation you have with teachers are, what are you going to do with that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. We had to agree you're going to do with that. And at the time, I mean, we're talking about 91. Computers were huge. And so I went into college as a computer science major with an English minor.
Oh,
so I did that for.
That's a unique combination.
Well, and I'm all of 17 for 3 months, right? So I'm basically 16 still. And so I love what I love doing, but at the same time, I have all the adults saying, you're not going to make any money at that. You're going to be living on the streets, eating, and I had already had a very poverty-stricken childhood.
Right.
So I did not want that for my adulthood.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to go be a computer programmer. Yeah. All that math.
How'd that work out?
Yeah. Love math.
Yeah.
And I'm still good at computers, but yeah.
Oh, Madeline.
Oh my gosh.
Madeline, you child.
Yeah, that was great.
She was hosting This Week in Indies, and I think it was this week that I like. Oh my God, today's only Monday, so this was literally yesterday. This is how bad my brain is today, and I'm pretty sure I called Madeline a child for that. I don't know. Not even the time before. I mean, not in a bad way, just like, oh, you're so young,
youngster.
You're so cute. But she is super cute, like she's just adorable, that adorable kind of person. So okay, Madeline, we've totally embarrassed you now, so
my second semester of my freshman year, I realized I had made a horrible mistake.
That's just such a bad idea.
Yeah, I had straight A's in all my English classes, and I had D's and C's in my programming English class. So
yeah,
I switched it.
Yeah, that was probably smart. Yeah. Yes, I totally called her a child.
Oh, she's pushing.
Yes, she'll be at Multiverse too.
Yay, come say hi.
Yes, yes.
I'll be in the geek track room.
Yes, you'll be in the science fiction room, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about Multiverse. Good segue. Good job. So Multiverse, for those who don't know, is anything with math is also not my cup of tea either. I'm not. I do not math, nor do I science. I word. So okay. So for those who don't know, Multiverse convention is a science fiction fantasy fandom convention. Science fiction fantasy horror fandom convention here in Atlanta, Georgia. This upcoming weekend, It's in the middle of October every year. We started in 2019. And I feel like this year is actually our second in-person year. Even though we were in person last year, but everybody was still, not really sure, whatever. So I run the right track and Nicole runs the science fiction track, which is awesome. So how did you get involved with Multiverse?
So I am very good friends with Gerald Goldman, and Gerald said, "Hey, Nicole, they need a sci-fi track director. Are you going to do that?" And I'm a huge sci-fi nerd, so I was like, "Yeah, I think I could do that." And I have been going to cons since, and I guessed at cons. I've been a guest at cons for, I'm not going to say because there's youngsters here, but
a few years.
It was a long extended time,
several minutes.
And so I've seen programming done a lot of different ways. And so I had enough, and I was a part of Congregate programming for a while in terms of like trying to help them with diversity. And so I had some experience, and I taught school for 20 years. I mean, you can wrangle kids. I taught middle school and high school kids. So not the little ones because they freak me out, but
God bless you.
I miss them. They're funny.
They're funny.
They're funny because they're just big kids. They really are.
Yes. Pretty much small versions of us. We might be slightly less impulse control, but only maybe slightly.
They're just, their brains aren't finished yet, and they think they are, and they're not. So they do goofy things that I just find hilarious. I can't be mad at them. People are like, they're sassy with you. Yeah, but their sass makes no sense, which is why I end up laughing, because it's like, it doesn't make any sense. I know you're trying to be like mad and rah, but I can't stop laughing because that makes absolutely no sense at all. So they're just funny. I love them. They're so entertaining at that age. I did 6th grade for a year, and I told my principal, "Don't you ever give me those babies again." Like ever. They're so clingy. I cannot. That's 2 plus 5th grade. I can't.
All right. So you got sucked into doing Multiverse because you've been there from the beginning too.
Year 2.
Oh, year 2. That's right.
I didn't do it the first year. I think Gerald did it the first year.
Yeah. And then he
he said, "Nicole."
Yeah. He bailed on us, like a rat on a not sinking ship.
So I did 2, 3, and now I'm doing 4.
Yes. Awesome. And it's so much fun too. It's just so ridiculous.
It's a great con, and I feel like it doesn't get
it's still
those.
Yeah, because
it's still baby.
Yeah, and also really because we started the year before the pandemic.
Yes.
So it's like we had this really awesome start and then
what?
Yeah. So, but we're getting back up there. I kind of I cornered Richard Fife in the bar at the Westin at Dragon Con. I didn't really corner him. Someone told me that he was, whatever. And I was like, I want to be your right track director because so because I really like the concept, because my favorite part of Multiverse is how you don't have to go looking for diversity.
No.
It's like literally right there. Like
it's integral to who we are. And so that's the thing that I think a lot of conventions are trying to add in diversity, like as a separate, like, hey, I want a burger, but can you add bacon to that? Whereas Multiverse is already a bacon cheeseburger. It comes with it.
Yes. Well, we actually put the bacon into the burger.
Right. It's already there. And so it's such a part of who we are from the ground up, from the startup, in the concept, like right here in the egg.
Yes.
Before we become a full-blown person, it's already a part of our DNA.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the beautiful parts about Multiverse that many, as a person of color, many cons just don't have.
Yes. And one of the things I really like about it too is we don't pigeonhole diversity. It's like, it's not just about Black voices.
Nope.
It's about Black voices and LGBTQ voices and other queer voices and differently abled people and like everyone. I mean, this became my favorite con, like right after the first year. And I love the way John Picasso, our very first year, John Picasso was our artist guest of honor. And during the closing ceremonies, he took over the microphone. He literally took it from one of the producers. He said, I got to talk for a minute. And then he just went 5 or 8 minutes just talking about how awesome it was. And the thing that he said that I actually started using is that diversity isn't a room you go into. It's already baked into the wallpaper.
Right.
You know, it's the wallpaper. Yes, exactly. And I think multiverse very much reflects actual fandom.
Yes.
You know,
no, I do agree with that. And you can see that from in many instances where you go to some conventions, and I'm not knocking other conventions because some of them really try, but the whole like we must have a diversity panel is kind of at this point, it's 2022. You shouldn't be doing diversity panels. Your panel should be diverse. And so I just feel like multiverse, that's just the way we do business, right? Every panel is diverse. There's no, it might be a focus on queer superheroes and like whatever, but it's not just, you know, a diversity generic panel where we try to cram all the issues that everyone has into this one panel for an hour.
Yeah.
And so I like that our topics at Multiverse are also deep.
Yeah.
We can have real deep, meaningful, meaty conversations, which is why I also like that we have an academic track.
Oh my God, that's one of my favorite parts too. Yes, I love the academic track. I never actually get to go to it.
I know, me too.
But I love that it exists there.
Right, I do too. Because when you look at the papers that are being presented at the academic track, they're just so phenomenal.
Yes.
And so I just think that is one of the that's rare. That's one of the things that Multiverse says that very few cons I go to do. It screams chaos. But it's really great.
It's girls rule, but yeah.
Yes, that's a good panel too.
Yes, always good. I actually moderate that one, and I have from the very first one, which just like I'm so honored to be able to do that.
Yes, that's a great panel. I never get to see that one either because I'm always stuck in the geek room. But
yeah, it's like really the only time I get out of my job. It's like, oh, I have to moderate this panel. Let me out. So yeah,
let me out. Yeah.
No, I love my track, or I wouldn't like my track this year is like I probably about at least a third of the time. I also have things going on in the gather room because we've got new things this year. We've got the story times, which are going to be hilarious.
I can't wait for that.
So did you get the email about what it's like, what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna just talk about it real quick, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
So the story times, we have 3 different ones. We have 2 all ages and 1 that is adults only, and basically they are group author readings like you've never seen them before. We have giveaways of books and various other things, and everyone who comes and attends the story time gets a ticket that will be hopefully drawn, right? So they win something, but you can earn additional tickets. And one way you can do it is if the author maybe doesn't want to read or whatever, maybe they don't, whatever, you can volunteer to read. That doesn't happen very often. But the other way that you can earn an additional ticket is by volunteering to act out what's about to be read, but you don't know anything about it, right? So that it becomes very sort of, interpretive dance like, or improvist, right? So it's just absolutely the funniest thing ever, and it's so much
such a fun, welcoming convention. Like it really is. Yes. I struggle if you're in Atlanta
or within easy
or close, right, to driving. I live in South Carolina. I'll be driving down. You should definitely attend.
Awesome. Yes. Super excited. It's going to be fabulous. So let's see. There's still some comments going on. You can volunteer Black Flames for that because it would be hilarious. We'll hold on to it for next year and we'll get you in there next year. Because it's like full. Like, of course, all authors want to do a reading, right? And my thing is, the whole reason I actually thought this concept up for a different con. And the whole thing is like, nobody likes it when you go to do a reading and there's literally no one there, or just your friend, you know, or whatever. Nobody likes that. And even if you're in the audience and you have come to see this person, if you're the only one there, that makes you feel horrible for the author. You know, it's just it doesn't have to be like that. So yeah, so this is just, it's gonna be so much fun. I'm so excited.
I'm excited for it too. It's gonna be hilarious.
So what panels are on your track are you looking forward to on the sci-fi track?
So I know, right? Even though I'm doing the sci-fi track, I'm a bit of a horror person. So I'm really looking forward to the hidden sexism and grief panel. I'm moderating that one, and it's a conversation around how Wanda in WandaVision is allowed her grief and the consequences of her grief, but when Picard was going through his grief in season 2, he received a lot of that season received a lot of negative feedback from fans. And I wanted to talk about this idea that men can't grieve, and how men grieve as depicted in Picard, and why that was perceived as something negative versus something that we were willing to embrace and accept. I mean, Wanda kept a whole town hostage, and that was okay, right?
Yeah, that may not be the most healthy way to express your grief.
But Picard, you know, goes off and acts out in a manner that is not typical Picard, because he's forced to relive and address his grief of his mother passing, her suicide, and it was panned. Like, no one, I mean, you should have seen the comments coming across Twitter about season 2 of Picard. And so there's some sexism in that, and there's some stereotypes in that around grief and how we're allowed to grieve and who gets to grieve, who determines that, and how does that show up in fandom.
That's
fabulous. The panel I'm excited about.
Oof. Now I'm like, oh man, I want to go hang out in the sci-fi room now. I need to clone myself and just like go. Right? I can't. Ugh. So,
hey, Lisa.
Lisa's out here. Yay, Lisa.
Thank you.
I'm gonna try to get Lisa on this show at some point too, because she's
a riot.
I know.
Hilarious.
Lisa's bananas. Hilarious.
And her conversations around horror are very, very academic and deep.
That's not surprising at all.
Speaking of academic, I'm going to plug Speculative Fiction Academy, SFA. So
yes.
The right genre.
Yes.
I have courses there on weird westerns and short story writing and fantasy world building. But there are tons and tons and tons of other genre stories that are really fantastic. We're the only academy that focuses on genre writing.
Yes. And that is the Speculative Fiction Academy. You just Google it, you'll find it. Super easy. Yep. So yeah, I have a couple short ones up there because my life has been way too chaotic. I have 2 longer ones that are in the works, but my life has been, I can't, poor Lisa, she checks in with me like, oh, I don't know, every 2 months. She's like, so how's it going? What's going on in your life? And I'm like, oh, I promise.
But there are also short sessions, and there are also free sessions there. You can check us out.
That's right. So definitely check it out. There's some really good stuff there, y'all.
It's criminally good, right? I'm just like, I wish I would have had this when I was starting out writing.
Oh, there it is.
Hi!
Yes. Awesome. Yes. And I believe Joe, who runs Go Indie now, he also has one on screenwriting up, I think. So yeah.
Check them out.
Definitely. It's awesome. Oh, look. Madeline put the
link in the chat.
Oh, hey, Bobby Nash.
Hey, Bobby.
Hey, Bobby. Yeah, Bobby was guest number 1. He was guest number 1.
Thanks for the support, Bobby.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. Woo. So yeah, so we've got Multiverse this weekend, which is going to be awesome and also ridiculous. But you mentioned, I mean, it's always ridiculous, right? Did you pick your walk-on music? Y'all, one of the ridiculous things we do is during the opening ceremonies Fife, who is our programming director, he's like, you have to pick walk-on music. And we started doing this thing where it's like wrestling, like wrestling have their theme music and their walk-on music. So now we all have our walk-on music every year. I did too. I went disco this year though. So
I did Seven Nation Army.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah. My first year I did Doctor Who. Last year I was dressed as Firefly. Did I actually do? I don't remember what actual music I did. Spoiler alert, Nicole.
I know you're not supposed to know, but
that's okay.
You haven't actually seen my actual walk on.
Oh no, that's true. That's true. So yeah. So definitely y'all want to check out opening ceremonies for sure. So all right. It is all just so ridiculous. Like the best
fun. And that's
the best kind of
inclusive and fun. Yeah. It's low key fun. Yeah. I mean, it's low key stress. Yes. There's not a lot of stress, just a lot of fun whole weekend.
Yes, it is fabulous. And if you like reading, if you're a reader, there are so many authors. Yeah, so many authors. It's primarily author driven, but we've also got an art show and an art track that's new this year. We have an actual art track.
It is. Yes, art track. So, it is new this year.
Yeah, it is new this year. We have a create track, which is all about making stuff, which is super cool, and we have a meet track, which is different kinds of meat. What? No, not double E, not EA, double E. But it's different kind of meetups, but also really interesting things. Like they did a kind of panel on Ouija boards, right? Mm-hmm. And so all kind and different like woo-woo things and mystical stuff, and they've done stuff on crystals. I think they're doing a tarot this year. Mm-hmm. I think it's one of them. So yeah. What am I forgetting so obviously we have sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, write, learn. I think that's all of them. Oh, game room. We have a game room.
And academic. So learn is the academic track. So gaming.
Yeah, we have gaming, but also a play track, which is a track panels and things about gaming.
Yep.
So, and Joe had asked me to say when the story times are. I don't remember the exact times, but I know there's one on Saturday afternoon, and the 18 and up is Saturday evening at I think 8:30 in the right track room, and then there's one Sunday afternoon. So I
think the final program for Multiverse is posted. So check out what's available.
Yes,
Multiverse and check it out.
Yes, go to multiversecon.org. Mm-hmm. So yes, that's awesome. All right, but you talked about earlier, you were talking about Mocha Memoirs. So you have your own press, which is awesome and incredible. So how did that come about? What made you decide to create your own press?
So Mocha's 11 years old. We started in 2010.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you got to remember what the publishing world looked like in 2010. It was very different than now. There was a lot less diversity in publishing. There's not a great amount now. I think B. Castro was tweeting out that there was like only 3% of media was Hispanic in terms of like fantasy speculative stuff. No, just period, 3%. And so yeah, I know. So in 2010, it was worse. Not just for Hispanics, but for people of color. And I was angry because I couldn't get my book published. I would have people tell me that my book was, I couldn't identify with the character. Now, most of my protagonists, though not all of them, are African-American women. And so when you tell me you can't identify with her, but you can identify with a shape-shifting tiger, we have a problem.
Yes.
And so Mocha Memoirs is basically a response to me being mad and saying, you know what? I had written romance I wrote romance for like 6 years under a pen name. And I was very successful with it. Like I wrote 65 titles in those 6 years.
Wow.
Sometimes with a partner, sometimes just me. But I wrote a lot of romance to the point where I don't ever want to really write romance again. But anyway, so I knew I had worked with enough small presses that I had a stable of cover artists. I had a stable of, editors that were
Mhm.
work for a fee. So I
Mhm.
knew I had enough contacts to launch a press, and it was at the time where Amazon had made it a lot easier to self-publish.
Yeah, because that's when they just were
Mhm.
starting with Create Space and all of that, right?
Well,
Yeah,
CreateSpace was separate, but yeah,
yeah.
they didn't buy them till
Oh, right, they hadn't bought them
months
yet.
later. But
Right.
they were, and there was, so I started out it with Lulu. Lulu was the first place actually that I went to that was able to allow me to publish,
Mhm.
to self-publish rather easily with POD. And so the technology was there. My internal rage was there. But I was also like, I can't be the only person who has a science fiction story that has a protagonist that's a person of color that wants that book published. I can't be
Mhm.
the only one.
Sure,
And so
right.
with the advent of social media, I started looking at Black Science Fiction Society, and other places. And I was like, and I started meeting other people. That's actually where me and Milton Davis met, and me and
Mm.
Gerald met on Black Science Fiction Society, and then later the State of Black Science Fiction on Facebook, that
Mhm.
group. And so I was able to meet other authors like myself who were like, we're not going to wait for traditional publishing to decide it's okay to have, the traditional publishing has this, there can be only one. They had Octavia Butler, we got our one, we're
Right.
good.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. We got our
I'm
Black
not
woman.
taking anybody
We
else.
don't need no more.
You
That's
cut
it.
off.
We hit our quota
We got our
for
quota.
real.
And it was annoying. I'm not saying that Octavia Butler is not like legendary status.
Oh my God, yes.
Really is.
Yeah.
And
Total
yes. And I'm not saying that my writing was anywhere near that because it isn't. So please don't know people like Nicole out there saying she out the next Octavia. No, I am not.
No, you were dragging on the publishing companies, not on Octavia
Not
Butler.
even remotely saying that I'm anywhere close to Octavia Butler. But African Americans are not a monolith. And so they want to, traditional publishing wants to control what stories we can tell, and they want to control how we tell those stories. And which ones. And so I was very encouraged to do my own press. And so I did. And I published, we've been doing that for, like I said, since 2010, July of 2010. We've been publishing anthologies and stories and novels and novellas by people whose voices don't normally get heard in those genres. And so it's a lot more common now, right?
Yeah.
To see people of color in horror. But I remember when it was just Tanner to do, and that was it.
Yep.
So,
yep, I remember.
So we were big, and we still are big. So because if you look at the staff for MoCA, we are all women, or we all identify as women or non-binary.
Mm-hmm.
The only male is my husband, is because he's got to be there. That's the only dude. So
because he's got to be there.
He's got to stay there. He's there because he said I do.
It's a thing, right?
Right.
That's why mine formats my book. Because he said I do. I'm like, you said I do. Fix this. Make it work.
That's why Wes fixes the website. It's broken. You said I do.
I can't get mine to do the website. I could if I was willing to wait 3 years.
There'd be no gaming until you fix the website.
Yeah, that's not.
But yeah, no, I don't do that to him. He usually just fixes it when I ask. But it's one of those things that it was an alignment of the advent of social media, right? Which made it easier for me to find others.
Yes.
The technology for print on demand and ebooks.
Yes.
Like when I first started writing professionally in 2001, your ebook reader was the size of your laptop. It's like huge, right?
Yes.
So they got progressively smaller, right? But I remember when all Amazon did was sell ebooks. Like I was there when they just sold ebooks, and their logo was actually a jungle. So, that's how old I am in the industry.
I was on Amazon not as a writer, but I was a very early adopter. So I remember when Amazon was just books, and that was it.
That was
even
it.
Before ebooks. It was just books.
Just books.
That was like 96, 95, 96. It was just books.
No, so I was so I think my first publishing contract was in like 2001. And I think we were all just so glad that nothing crashed for Y2K. They were like, yeah, we'll publish whatever.
We got a whole nother millennium in front of us. Bring it on.
So yeah, that's how Mocha started. It just started as a way to amplify those voices that people and those stories that often don't get published via traditional publishing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so important too, because so much of it, like, I love that. So when the live action Little Mermaid stuff just dropped recently,
Yep.
and some people went insane because she's Black.
Yep.
But I watched all the videos of those little girls who were watching, and suddenly there's a Black Ariel, and these girls, their faces and their excitement. And it's like, everyone should be able to see themselves in something that's out there and easy to see. It should all be there. Oh.
So one of the things people miss about representation in media is that it's not just great for me to see images of Black women in film. It's also good for people who aren't Black women to see Black women in film. They're doing something different, not just pimps, mammies, or prostitutes.
Oh my God.
And so it doesn't just benefit the group that's being represented. It's good for the dominant group too, and they get used to seeing people of color doing other things. I'm totally convinced that one reason why President Obama was not, and this is just an aside, but I think one of the reasons is that you saw Morgan Freeman as president in like 6 films, and so it was not too shocking to see a Black president, because you saw it in media.
That reminds me of like that whole,
like 6 or 7 films.
That whole rule of like sales. Somebody has to see your product 7 times before they're willing to buy. I feel like that's just like,
and someone's going to be out there going, Nicole out there talking stupid shit. No, but seriously, I'm just saying, I do think the more, but and John Green says this. This is not a Nicole epiphany. Actually, I do a presentation about, because I used to teach English. I talk about how reading and empathy. And so one of the things, and diversity and representation in text. And so one of the things that John Green said was, it isn't just great for Black kids to see Black kids in media and stories as superheroes and as adventurers or what have you, as princesses. It's also important for white kids to see that too.
Yes.
So they can start seeing Black people beyond those stereotypical roles that you see them in, which is why when people go, oh, it's just a movie, it's no big deal. It is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, it's just a cartoon. It's nobody. It is a big deal, because those images, how many of us grew up listening to classical music because we saw Bugs Bunny play it?
How many of us have the Bugs Bunny Overture album?
So I'm saying that those things matter, and people are like, well, it's just media, it's toss away, it's throwaway stuff, but it's not. Media reflects in our stories, reflect how we see the world. And so it's really important for representation for us, but also for other people as well. And I think sometimes that gets missed when people are having that diversity conversation. Oh, well, I'm just not going to include diversity for diversity's sake. Then your world doesn't reflect the real world. Yes. Well, I'm writing about space and they're all aliens. Yeah, but they're bipedal.
Yes, that's right. You're still making them look human. So, yeah.
And I think, so you mean to tell me your whole crew are all white folks? Because there's nobody diverse on Earth
at all. What? Yes. And I think also I like what you said about empathy too, because one of the things about people who travel, about people who maybe are in university settings, is in most cases, not all cases, because some universities are not particularly horribly, excuse me. But I think one of the things that you learn as you get out in the world beyond, where you grew up, because we all, we grew up in wherever we grew up, whatever that looked like, that was our world, I have family, like my dad's side of the family is all Italian, right? So I didn't grow up in that world, but it can be very, very, focused and very looking inward, right? I mean, and I'm not saying that Italians are like that, but anytime you grow up in a group that is where you've got just like the central core, it becomes that way. And so as you grow up and you become an adult and you step out into the world, interacting with other people who look, sound, act, or believe in different things than you do is important, because
It is.
it shows you how human they are, just like you. They're just like you, but they're different. They just have differences, right? And that empathy is so important, because that's the only way we get anything done.
And that's the importance of reading. And so when people, and this is, again, I give this talk to teenagers at schools when I talk about science fiction and why you should read science fiction, because it makes us more empathetic.
Yeah.
And it takes away some of the pressure of like urban fiction, where it's right in your face and you live on that block. Whereas now you're in this fantastic setting, you're still dealing with human things, right? You're still dealing with conflict. You're still dealing with how to personality clashes. You're still dealing with all those things, falling in love and it not being, unrequited and all this stuff. You're still dealing with all that stuff, but it's in this fantastic setting. It's in the future. It's in the, on a space station, what have you. And so that kind of removes some of the immediate angst, and you're able to dive into that story and learn those lessons, or see that story from someone else's point of view and gain that empathy and go, you know what? I would have probably done that differently, but I can definitely see why Bob in this story did it this way. Yeah. And it makes us just more human and more connected. So I always champion reading as an English teacher. I will always, but I don't always do it with novels, because some kids will need pictures. And they're like, oh, they're in high school, they need to read, or in middle school, they need to read chapter books. Yeah, well, not all kids can make that picture in their head, right? This is an access issue. So give them a graphic novel so they can still follow the story, but they are reading the character's growth and story arc. They're reading the character being persistent, but their brain can't make the picture. So let them see the picture on the page. It's okay. It really is okay.
One of the things I actually just really I learned is that I've been it came up in a chat on a Discord I'm in. Yes, Professor Givens Kurtz. Is that there are some of us who can't, when how when you say picture an apple, there are some people who actually picture an apple. Yep. Other people can't.
Right.
People think of a memory that had an apple in it, or they think of how the word is spelled, or they can't actually picture. And we're only just learning those things, And
kids are so like, so I taught middle school and high school, and you heard me tell Vanessa this earlier, because I can't do little ones, like ever. So
same.
But I definitely think that empathy part of being able, so I would force this is where I get on my soapbox about diversifying your literature as well. So in my classroom, we had a lot of books. We didn't have a lot of dead white guys. We just didn't. Because I feel like they got that in the other grades. Right. So by the time they got to me, we're not reading that anymore.
You already know how how that works. So.
And so I remember one year I was teaching AP literature, and my students we were getting ready to start second semester, and they're like, I was like, I'm that teacher. Give me your feedback. If you don't like how we're doing this, let's talk about how we can do it differently. And they're like, Ms. Kurtz, can we not read about death this semester? I was like, what? They're like, oh yeah, all last semester, everything we read, it had dying in it. As I lay dying, forever young, dying. Like they were like, so they started listing like the syllabus, and I was like,
good catch. Yeah. But that's like perfect, because it's like, oh, you saw the theme.
It's completely subconscious, right? Yeah. It's not going there. I would do things like mental illness. Like, so we would read the yellow wallpaper. Yes, the author is problematic, that's how I get out. But we would read the yellow wallpaper. Yeah. We would read other stories where mental illness comes to play. And to help them understand that mental illness, that arc of how it was demonized, how people, how they made it worse, and just different stories. And so I tried to be diverse in what I gave them, which often meant I was going broke, because our school libraries are very as you guys have probably already heard, they're kind of a battleground right now. That's
Mhm.
actually not new. It's just public now. And so I always had, like, I got in trouble once for not having an alternate assignment for my AP class because we were reading Brave New World, and the mother did not want her daughter to read about the orgy scene. And I'm like, out of all the things that are wrong in Brave New World, that's what you're problem with. Okay. All right. This was our dystopian utopian reader group. So somebody had 1984, someone else had like
Animal Farm.
no, I did 1984 because I didn't do Animal Farm.
Okay.
I did Orwell, but I had a bunch of different ones. There was like the Poppy Seed War and a few other ones, that the one that was in Mexico where, yes, the Poppy Seed War. So they all had different ones. It was just like, he's like, my principal's like, you got to have an alternative assignment. And I'm like,
Okay.
I mean, because they're dystopian, so they're all going to be horrible.
Yes, there's going to be terrible things in them.
So
the cannibalism is fine, but no orgies.
Here's the Hunger Games. It's about starving. See, a lot of people don't realize that. People watch the movie, they're like, "Oh, it's about the actual games." It's really not about the games. The Hunger Games are about people that District 12 was starving.
Yes.
There's a lot of conversations in the text about how thin and pale,
yes,
the protagonist was, Katniss was, because they didn't get food.
Right.
Right. And so the whole point of participating in the games, they don't have a choice. But winning means you got more food for your
district. That's exactly what it was about. It was about gaming survival, creating a game for the have-nots.
For the have-nots.
You know, and it's just
oof. I was like, y'all missed it, huh? Because
really?
This is the reason why she's hunting, which is why she's so good with a bow.
Right.
Because she's supplementing the fact they don't have enough food.
Yeah.
This is why the scene at the black market is so traumatic.
Yes.
It's so detrimental to, it's not just some glorious scene.
Right.
No, this is where people got additional food and they destroyed it.
Yes.
So it's just
the very opening scene in the book is her out hunting outside of the bounds of the district, which could carry serious consequences. She's hunting for squirrels.
She needs food to eat. Right. They're starving. Like, I don't think people actually get, hence the Hunger Games.
Hello. It's right there in the title. Right there.
But I hate that got missed. But anyway, I gave her the Hunger Games, which is supposedly,
no
the capital and the utopia. But it's
no orgy scenes, so it's fine.
I was just like, that's what you're worried about? Really? Out of all the things that are wrong, like all the things in bananas in the high school
in the internet age.
It's like,
come on now.
Maddie said eye roll. I'm serious. It was bananas.
Yes. Oh my gosh. But God love you for teaching those kids though, because that is, I think kids need more teachers like you, but that's a whole different thing. Joe asks, it's inspired by a Greek myth, right? Was it? I don't know if it was or not. I don't know. I don't know. The Hunger Games?
I did teach it. We did not include a myth, but that doesn't mean there isn't one.
Right.
There's a lot of Greek myths that I don't know. I know some, but I don't know all of them.
Yeah. And the thing about myths is there are multiple, King Minos, is that there are multiple versions of pretty much every myth also. So,
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Teachers are, Madeline says, teachers are freaking awesome, and don't even get me started on the lack of pay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I always worked a second job the entire time I taught.
Yeah. I have a friend who she teaches elementary school. I think it's elementary school, special ed elementary school. And she's like the perfect person to do this. Like she's just the perfect person to do this, but she has a wish list for her class, and so every couple months I pick a couple things off the wish list, and send it to them because
always
yep. So let's see what else. So I believe that there's a GoFundMe. No,
It's an Indiegogo.
It's an Indiegogo. Yes. That's right. I was like, wait a minute. I still got it wrong.
That's okay. We are having a crowdfunder for our latest anthology, which is called Blackened Roots. It's an anthology of non-traditional zombie stories written by Black authors, and we're talking like Brandon Massey, Sheree Renee Thomas, Lisa Wood, Stephen Patton, Craig Lawrence Gidney, Eric Nunley. Like, there's award winners. It's like, and that's just Rockland, Terry Clark. Like, just it's just like a who's who in horror is in this, and it's really amazing that they all said yes. Poor things. We really want to make this project fun, so we need your help. Please donate to us, and there also are some really amazing perks, like you get books and you get shout outs on Nightlight podcast. So it isn't just Smoke Memoirs who's doing it, it's in conjunction with Nightlight Horror Podcast, which is produced by Tanya Ramson, and it's a horror podcast for Black horror writers. And it's so good. It's also, I think they've been nominated for a World Fantasy Award. So,
wow. And so, who are you editing it with?
Tanya Ransom.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So yeah, it's going to be pretty freaking awesome. But we really would need your help to make that happen.
Yes, and we will make sure that link is in the notes under the video. Hopefully, if we don't have it, we'll get it and we'll put it in there.
So you can find the link on the Mocha Memoirs website too.
Right, which is definitely going to be in the notes. we definitely have the Mocha Memoirs link. I'm not sure if we have the Indiegogo one, but yes. Yes, Carol's already on board. She's like, point me in that direction. I have my wallet.
Nice. Thanks, Carol.
Yes. And I'm going to add that to my TBR pile, which is like 8,000 books high.
They're just stacks on the floor now. My bookcase is like, we get look.
Like,
we gave up.
Yeah. Wait a minute, honey. Yeah. I actually started purging my books right before the pandemic.
Really?
Yeah. I started getting, because I had a whole bunch that I'd had for years. And I'm like, okay, if I haven't read it by now, I'm either not going to read it, or if I want to read it again, I'll give the author money again. And I will pass this on to someone who might read it this year.
That's weird.
Okay. So Joe's going to add the Indiegogo right now to the, description because he's awesome.
Thank you.
Carol already emptied the wallet. Clearly, you're going to have to find someone else's wallet.
I mean, it's just like I was telling, like Stephen Patton is a part of the Horror Writers Association in New York office, a New York branch. So he's in it. Yeah. So is Mark Abbott. So
I love him. I think he's at Multiverse this year too.
He is. Yeah. He runs is it the Monster Mash?
Yes, I believe that I believe that Lisa said that you guys can move any guests around I have, but he must.
I must have him.
The Monster Mash. That was like her. She was like, I don't care. I will rearrange every other panel. I will, trade people out if you need. And then she'd be careful who you hug. Clearly, you shouldn't get anywhere near Carol.
Carol.
I don't think Carol's
like, nobody Carol.
Yes. Oh, Carol, are you going to be there? I feel like
he is.
Oh,
Carol twice this year because I saw
my God.
Confidence.
I've so lost track of who's coming, and there are people who were coming but then couldn't come, and so other people who couldn't come who are coming, and I've just lost track. I don't even know anymore.
Okay, so speaking of Carol, I'm also in A Woman Unbecoming.
Oh yes,
and I know that Carol edited with Rachel Brune. Those are horror stories that benefit
sexual reproductive rights.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's late. I'm old. So Carol helped edit that. And yes, I have a story in there. And so, go check that out. It's a charity anthology.
Featured in our spotlight here on Go Indie Now. So awesome. Oh yeah, baby. Yes. That is also in my to be read, but the in my ebook, in my electronic, which is
your
always
Kindle, your device is heavy from all the TBR books.
Yes. Yes, that's what it was a compromise with my bookshelves. They were like, look, woman, we have no more room. There's no more room at this inn. You need to figure something else out. So I'm like, all right.
Mine are stacked on the floor, I told you. And my cat's like, this is fine.
Yeah, it's like, I can climb it. It'll be fine. It's no big deal.
I can lay right here.
And it kind of makes it a stepping stone to the top of the bookshelf, right? Oh, Joe said he started reading it already. Yay! Phenomenal writing there. And we'll be getting a hard copy. Yeah, I'm actually going to get a hard copy.
I'm getting a hard copy too at Multiverse.
Same.
So tell Rachel Carroll she needs to bike pack a lot.
What's hilarious is I actually have.
Absolutely. I'll sign copies.
I have Rachel's books that I probably should have let her know. Hey, Rachel, if you're out there anywhere, your box of books arrived.
Oh, you got them. So, okay.
I got them. Yeah, because she wasn't sure they'd get there in time before she actually had to leave to travel here. So she was like, "Can I send them to you?" I was like, "Yeah, girl."
You may want to let her know they came. She can stop like the cortisol level.
Well, no, she told me this morning that they were coming, so she's tracking it. Okay. I'm sure she knows I've got it, but I should probably give her a heads up anyway, just in case. So yeah, all right. So let's see where. Well, wait. Is there anything else that we didn't hit that we wanted to hit? We still got a couple of minutes. Trying to think. Oh, Joe's gonna put in the spotlight episode that for A Woman Unbecoming. Yeah, so that's the special one. So anything else that we missed? I'm trying to think if there's anything that I wanted to. My little notes. I hit everything in my little notes. So
nope, we're good. I mean, other than the fact that I talked about, I do have a new story out. Oh, if you like, I tend to write science fiction noir mysteries. So if you like that type of story, think Blade Runner. Mm-hmm. I have a story in Baen's No Game for Knights anthology with a new character set in my Sybil Lewis universe. The name of my story is All in the Family. So it's pretty awesome. I really love this story. I really love this character. And so he's new. It's a male character lead, and he's Black Hispanic. Mm-hmm. And so it's very different than what I normally write in terms of like character wise, because it's a dude. Yeah. I really like this story a lot. And if you could check it out, that would be great.
Awesome. So what's the name of the anthology again?
No Game for Knights.
No Game for Knights. Awesome. All right. So tell us where people can find you and give people, if somebody wanted to jump into your work, what's the first book that you would recommend that they pick up?
Because I write a lot of different stuff. It's
okay. Give me one science fiction and one horror.
So for horror, I definitely recommend Sisters of the Wild Sage. They're weird westerns, but they're all horror in origin. So
I love weird westerns too.
And they're all set in the New Mexico territory. So that's the one. If you're going to do horror, that's the one. And if you're going to do science fiction, I'm going to skip sci-fi and do fantasy and do Kill 3 Birds. Okay. It's just my Kingdom of Avis mystery fantasy. The people are in bird clans. They have bird behaviors. The protagonist is a hawk. She's got wings and she can see the unseen.
Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah.
And she uses that to resolve crimes in her kingdom.
Oh yeah, I think that's good. Yeah. Because like I've read your some of your short stuff, but I haven't read any of your longer stuff. So yes, that's one I'm definitely going to do. Okay. How would you like people to get a hold of you if they want to touch base, website, Twitter, that kind of thing?
Okay. So I'm on Twitter at Nicole G. Kurtz. I'm on Facebook at Nicole G. Kurtz. So you can always find me at mochamemoirspress.com though.
Yes. And I want to remind everybody to mash the like button and hit subscribe and the little bell so you get little notifications, because we have lots of great shows. This one and all kinds of other shows that are interesting for authors, indie creators of all types, screenwriters, musicians, all the things. All right, Nicole, what time is it?
It's always time to go indie.
Now.
Now.
Right now.